Welcome everyone to this webinar, looking at our NBS training offerings and helping you to understand what your options are. Joining the webinar, we have representatives from NBS, but also Ryder Architecture to provide some insight into the realities of training and enhancing your skills. Today's agenda is that I'll provide a bit of background on NBS Academy, and then we'll look at the training progression for NBS Chorus through bronze, silver, gold levels that you may have heard of, and learn about that structured training along with the other courses available from our NBS training team. Then we'll hear from Ryder Architecture about the experience of training that they've had and how useful that's been. I'll then cover NBS technical topics and dive into the technical industry topics that can really help to support your learning and skills development within the NBS Chorus, things that you might be learning, supporting that with technical content too. And then we'll wrap up with next steps for how to get you trained up, and after the webinar to reach out to discuss your specific training needs. So my name is Paul. I'm one of the specification consultants at NBS, and I'm greatly pleased to be joined by my colleague Nick Armitt from our training team. Nick will cover the NBS Chorus part and the introduction to the customer journey for NBS training, and by Dr. Izzy Williams from Ryder Architecture about their experience of NBS Academy and how Ryder Architecture have benefited from NBS Chorus training. I'll then cover NBS technical CPDs, the technical CPD on industry subjects that we can present remotely for your teams. And today we also hoped to hear from Emily from Ingleton Wood, but sadly they were unable to join us for this session. So many of you may have used NBS training, attended an online course, or even had face-to-face training in the past. And all of those courses for NBS Chorus, for our plugins, for NBS Source, along with technical CPDs on industry topics, are now wrapped up in the NBS Academy, a hub of training options with information on our website, and that your account manager can recommend with consultation with our training team, the course that will best meet your needs, and doing an assessment of what your needs are and providing a course that really meets those requirements, whether that's for you, for your team, for your colleagues, and the level of knowledge that already exists within your organization or for a new individual joining your business. There's a really diverse range of NBS Training Academy offerings, whether you're new to NBS Chorus, whether you've been using NBS products for a long time, whether you'd like to learn about more technical subjects, perhaps new features within those platforms, or those technical subject areas too. Hopefully this session gives you a bit of background on some of the courses that are available. You can also learn about NBS Chorus itself, but also those technical subjects that we mentioned, things like specification writing, classification systems like Uniclass and CAWS, the common arrangement of work sections, but also how NBS supports the golden thread of information and sustainable specification too. Our trainers are certified and they're experts in working with different groups and parts of the industry, so we can find a course that really meets your needs and gives you the support that you're looking for. So let's hear now from Nick Armitt, our senior trainer here at NBS, about NBS Chorus training and what's available to help customers on that journey.
Thank you, Paul. I've been with NBS for over 6 years now, and many of you might recognise my face or my voice. Some of you might have been trained by myself or my colleagues, Martin Marks and Nikki Watson. Between us, we have over 15 years of experience in working with Chorus and have provided training for over 8,000 delegates in that time. We are all ILM Professional Trainer Techniques accredited trainers and focus on creating a learning atmosphere for delegates. When it comes to the NBS Academy, we provide a range of resources and courses designed to support professionals in the construction industry. So whether you're looking to get started in using Chorus or you just want to further enhance your knowledge. NBS Chorus training courses can support individuals who are new to using the platform, helping them to adopt it more quickly and become more skilled, thus enabling them to focus on specification writing. The NBS Chorus courses we offer are structured and have a guided approach to learning the platform, enabling delegates to work alongside the trainer in the platform. By gaining proficiency in using NBS Chorus, individuals can streamline their workflow and spend less time figuring out the software, allowing them to devote more energy to the quality and accuracy of their specification writing. Our NBS Chorus courses are designed to accommodate various skill levels and use cases, providing flexibility to meet your specific needs and objectives. Our current catalogue of courses includes Organisation Administration, which looks at how to manage Chorus within your organisation. It can be tailored to the audience, so whether it's administrative support teams or IT, we can adapt that course to meet your requirements. The course covers data security, protocols for departing employees, as well as outputting specifications as single or multiple documents and creating style sheets. We've got NBS Chorus Bronze. This course takes delegates with no experience in the platform and teaches them the basics they need to be able to write a specification and publish it. We've got NBS Chorus Silver, which is for those who've either done NBS Chorus Bronze or they've been using the platform for a little while. And it takes participants with a basic understanding of Chorus and enhances their skills in some of the more advanced features. NBS Chorus Gold looks at technically advanced functionality, as well as taking a more surgery-based approach where you can really benefit from our accredited trainers and their extensive knowledge of the platform. Model Integration. This is aimed at Autodesk Revit users. We offer this course to help upskill your digital modelers by showing them how to make intelligent associations between your Chorus specification and 3D models by using the Chorus plugin for Revit. Chorus for Manufacturers is a comprehensive course for manufacturers on using the platform to write product specifications, share them with specifiers, and integrate specification writing workflows into their processes. Alongside these Chorus courses, we also provide training to get started with NBS Contract Administrator. We can also work alongside your organisations to bespoke courses around the way that you work or specific existing or new functionality within the platform. As a team, we are here to help you maximise the investment in your Chorus platform. So please reach out to your account managers, reach out to us as a team. We all want to be able to help you. Thank you.
Next, I'm so pleased to be joined by Dr. Izzy Williams, Senior Learning and Development Lead at Ryder Architecture, to hear about recent training that Ryder have had on NBS Chorus and how that's helped their work in practice.
Hi, Izzy. Would you just provide a bit of an introduction to yourself and your background?
So I am the Senior Learning and Development Lead for Ryder Architecture. I coordinate business development in regards to training, whether it's statutory, mandatory, or the professional qualifications we have in practice. I also lead on education initiatives, so that's apprenticeships, T-levels, work placements, anything that touches education, learning and development usually lands in my inbox, and I'm the contact here at Ryder.
So Izzy, when deciding to first take NBS training, what outcomes were you hoping to achieve?
So with any training, we always make sure we're aware of the objectives that the training is going to provide, because we need to make sure that the training aligns with the needs we have in practice. Particularly with the NBS training, outcomes that we hope to achieve include things like improved job performance. So we need individuals who are proficient in NBS, they can confidently apply their new skills and knowledge to projects, but also lead to increased efficiency and productivity as they keep pace and traction with having used those new skill sets and applied them within real world situations. That kind of has a knock-on effect with increased engagement, because training in itself can lead to higher job satisfaction and motivation, because people start to feel more competent and valued having completed the training. They're then able to complete various tasks, but also think about the investment that as a practice we are putting into that individual, whether it's to upskill, whether it's to continue that training process and make sure they can continue to strive to do their best on a day-to-day basis. There's also a degree of enhanced collaboration that we keep an eye out for. So, especially with identified specialisms like specification writing, training can foster that improved communication and collaboration both with internally, with external parties that we work with across various projects. But it's also that opportunity internally to mentor individuals and share that new knowledge and skills and make sure that it's not just the person who does the training, but then that information can be shared elsewhere and then feed through to some of the whether it's architectural apprentices we've got coming in, our Plan B hire apprentices, a variety of people who are then exposed to the same information that we can then pass on that knowledge and skills.
That's fantastic. With that kind of training, what kind of challenges do you tend to encounter when arranging it, with providers?
So we've worked with NBS for quite a long time now, but if I draw on other experience procuring training more widely, there's always a degree of relevance and applicability. So you have to align the expertise of training providers with our requirements, and that can be quite difficult. We know a lot of programs can't be fully tailored to the exact need of the client because that would create a very bespoke program that you would have one for each client, and if your client base is in the thousands, that's a lot of different programs. Now, with NBS, well, that's less of a challenge because we have worked with you for so long. The team are very receptive to our needs, and adjustments are made as and when they're applicable and possible. So we've kind of grown with you alongside your training programs, which is a lovely thing to have. If I give an exception to that, so your Chorus Gold training is the exception because it is usually bespoke, because it is tailored to the intended group's needs. So the affiliated practice, the discipline can kind of morph and take that training program and apply it very specifically to the skill sets that are required by the business. So when we do get to a course of that particular level, you're not only training or providing that skill set, you're also looking at the real world applications. You're training the next cohort of experts. So that is a really important factor to be aware of as well, which is why the tier system works. It works really well in our case. I think one of the big ones a lot of people might come back with is cost. So training is expensive, and any other L&D coordinator will know. You have to kind of assess the ability for training programs to meet requirements in a cost-effective way. So you neither choose in between quantity or quality. You've got to find that like quite harmonious balance to make sure you're getting what you need, but also receptive that there is a price to pay that goes with that. So training must meet those required needs and deliver as per the objectives, and it's then received by those who partake in the course. Now, we always rely on a feed-forward approach. The information we receive from trainees or delegates who've been on the programs, we always make sure that's either fed back to companies or we ourselves use that information to make sure those decisions are informed.
That's brilliant. Yeah, we'll come back to that kind of idea of value, I think. But you mentioned sort of the communication and the support that you receive from NBS. How would you describe that across the training process as a whole?
Across the training process, it's very responsive, especially to inquiries, very receptive to feedback, which is always lovely to see. We've worked with you for several years, as we know, and we continue to do so because there is that level of professionalism and the high quality training that comes out of this. And I'm not just saying that to be on this webinar, it is true. A lot of the stuff we talk about with Ada and Nick, and I have done in my role for the past couple of years, we've kind of sat with you through the restructure of those training levels, especially the NBS Chorus training. So communication was maintained throughout. Both Ada and Nick are very understanding of our requirements as a company. So naturally, the training received has flexed and adapted as we've grown as much as you have. So it always accommodates our needs and requirements through those growing cohorts, especially as we get more and more people now joining the practice as the business is growing. And as we said, the level of support and communication has never wavered. It's always been consistent, which is exactly what a client like us would need from a training provider.
That's great feedback. That's really good to hear. I understand that you've gathered feedback as well from some of the teams, and thinking about that, sort of what aspects of the training tend to be the most useful?
Tend to be the most useful. So if I jump back just a second, so we have had additional guidance from you, which has helped as well, in addition to that level of communication and support. So where it's not necessarily appropriate to put a person through an entire course or an entire program, we have had opportunities to work with NBS with one-to-one feedback courses to assist with training development. So for example, we had an individual who didn't need the gold training, but it was the model integration course, and it was like a small top up. So what we did, kind of on a win-win situation, we had a person complete that training using your internal resources, and then fed back how that could be turned into a wider program as a one-off course. So there's that good symbiotic relationship there, where we've been able to train someone, but you've been able to use us as guinea pigs in the same process. And in the same way, when we think about the usefulness of the training, the introductory courses are always very well received. And even across all the levels procured, whether it's someone who is of a higher rank individual, has a bit more experience, or those who are completely new to the process and starting to dabble with specification writing. Actively being shown how to use the interface has been proved really helpful, because it's running through, rather than those alternative forms of delivery where we know things like self-led training are great for you to be able to balance and juggle your own workload. The motivation and the engagement with them can waver, because you can jump to it as and when you have an hour or two to then do a bit more work on that. But whilst there's that increased ability to manage workload, it's that ownership to their learning as well. So with the more complex software, more complex platforms, to have an expert sit with you and go through those processes makes that training much more relatable, especially when there's technical issues on both parts, and you can see how it does happen to anyone. The sessions themselves are at a really good pace. It's essential for delegate engagement. If someone's too quick, if someone's too slow, you can switch off very quickly and you start to lose the audience. Whereas that ability to keep up with the course delivery, it ensures that engagement, it ensures that consistent understanding of content. But again, it's still instilling confidence in the delegates. And I think whoever's delivering the sessions as well will also receive a little bit of a boost, because they see that it is well received, especially by body language, how people are receptive within the training sessions. And it's a really good situation to be in. So we tend to find there's lots of different elements, especially the introductories, that the way the training is delivered are really useful, because they keep up that engagement and they keep a person ingrained within the training being provided.
That's brilliant. And I guess when you're assessing things with the teams, have there actually been tangible improvements that you can see and increased knowledge as a result of the NBS Chorus training?
Yes. So having spoken to some of those who, I think they must have done the training like 2-3 years ago, as well as a couple of people who've done it more recently, that we do have those enhanced specification writing skills. So it makes sure we have that accuracy and that consistency. As you know, they're essential when working across multiple projects. They're absolutely essential for ensuring quality and compliance. It's that better understanding of standards and regulations. So being able to access the latest industry standards, the regulations, ensuring they're incorporated into the specifications. But it's also access to verified content that then aligns with all of that. It's not just having a rule book and then an example that sits alongside. They are almost, they're one in one. So you have to be able to engage with both parts. I think something that a lot of people not necessarily take for granted, but are a little less aware of, is that increased digital literacy that comes with using these kind of platforms and tools, especially cloud-based tools, because they're not just something you've plugged into a desktop. They can have a whole different form and whole different approach for how you use them. So we do have individuals who are much more proficient in cloud-based software, more seamless integration of other tools into those platforms, such as the BIM platforms, but it then again increases workflow efficiency. So those people are able to keep up, they do, and it almost becomes second nature to them, because they are so exposed and they become so familiar with those platforms. We've had, again, there's the quicker adoption of relevant new features that goes with that confidence, because you're able to keep pace with those updates and enhancements. So again, you go back to that proficiency, people having the confidence to take on an update and it doesn't bother them too much. A button might have moved, but they can still then keep up and still apply the same knowledge and skill sets. And even more so that now that we have those more experienced users, they have been able to support new team members and those less familiar with platforms. So it is a valuable opportunity for everyone, both for personal development as well as professional. Now, all of that has been supported by Nick again, who does offer quarterly Q&A sessions with us at Ryder. Now we'd usually do them every 3 to 4 months, depending on demand, where it's a really fantastic opportunity for people of all levels to ask key questions and for guidance with the platform itself. We do send questions in advance, so Nick's not entirely cold to what's going to be given to him in the hour. But again, it allows people to bring those project-related queries to the session and get that guidance directly to help inform their work. So there's lots of tangible improvements and there's lots of tangible outcomes and additional opportunities that we have taken advantage of.
That's wonderful to hear. I don't know whether you're able to share, but are there any examples of project work in the real world that have been impacted by training?
So I'm not as close to projects as L&D lead, but I do know of a couple of examples where that have required specification writing, and we have got the creations of specs for things like the Tees Valley Community Diagnostic Centre. You've got the Dogger Bank operations and maintenance base, and that particularly regarded the floors, the walls, and the ceiling finishes. And again, I suppose jumping back to my L&D hat, it's that those projects are benefiting not only from individuals who have the key skill sets, but also the increased confidence to use their training and work effectively, but both efficiently with the platform itself. So for some, it's become an area of interest. It's a specialist skill set that enables them to mentor others and coach individuals who are less familiar. So there's almost demystifying this barrier between what is NBS Chorus, what is the technicalities, the specifications, versus the design process, the architectural drawings, and people are becoming much more familiar with the different areas and different parts, which with our Plan B higher apprenticeship is absolutely essential to make sure people are aware of all the different roles and varieties of disciplines within the industry itself. You're not just pen and paper.
It's wonderful to hear the various value that you're finding in it, from the digital literacy, the being able to use the platform, the kind of tangible things that you can actually apply. I guess when you're comparing that training to others that you receive and the experience that you have, do you have any suggestions for improvements for the future?
As I said, we do have a feed forward approach. You can always learn a lesson from something and then feed it into the next way in which something's delivered. I suppose that there's some suggestions you can see that kind of go from a granular right the way through to how we approach training more generally. And some of my colleagues have fed back that, for example, some sessions could be condensed into shorter programs, but again, that will vary depending on, say, delegate level, the depth and detail of the content, but also making sure you're hitting the right audience as well, because we know if we were to ask for something really specific, it would become a Ryder program rather than having something that you as NBS can roll out much more generally to a number of different practices. So lengths of programs in terms of the content, they could be streamlined in some sense, but again, it's weighing up the quantity and quality and what is absolutely essential to be put into those programs. There's something about integrating example specifications from affiliated projects. So whether that's something that could be shared with other organizations or something that NBS themselves have that could be fed into their training. So whether that's additional coordination with NBS, but it's that opportunity to align the training more directly with projects that are produced by the organizations, and people can see the active use of that tool on something else rather than just, say, a simulation, because simulations can be programmed to rule out all the issues and problems. Whereas if you've got a completed project that you can work on or the existing data sets, it's quite interesting to see how that can kick up problems. And again, it becomes much more about that real life situation. Which kind of led into another suggestion from a colleague about using full mock-ups of projects right from the setup to the publishing to PDF, whether it's demonstrating sections, illustrating various interfaces and pages. It's using that mock-up with, say, like an external wall as a section to create a specification round. So you can see as that building is, that design starting to progress, you can see where there's key points that the specification really comes into play, and people need to know how to use that platform and really feed it into the design properly.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, to sort of look at the project timeline and how something evolves over time, from start to finish and sort of into the future as well. In terms of, I guess, those suggestions are really useful and often about the sort of practicalities of the training. In terms of the topics themselves, do you get any feedback as to other topics that would be useful for future NBS training?
Yes, there's a couple, and it kind of overlaps a little bit with the suggestions about improving the
Sure.
training more generally. Now, some members have attended the previous training, and they've kind of, as they've worked on the programs, have kind of come across different areas or different topics that they think could be plugged in as additional, like, just to enhance that training experience. So, for example, there is covering the use of the NBS plugin to Revit, how that can be effectively used. You've got using master and office standard specifications in there as well. Using things like the comparison and revision history tool effectively, especially because I think we as a practice have something slightly separate that we've kind of made our own workarounds, which it still adheres to all the right policies and legislations and the requirements of the spec, but there could be a more simpler way of doing it. For example, there's no function to link separate clauses, so linking all, say, sanitary ware clauses into a specification. Now, I think we've had this conversation with Nick previously, and there is NBS are looking at functionality around publishing work packages, such as using, I think it's tags, the TAGS to do it. So it would be great that if that does become a possibility, that those who have either done the training previously could receive an overview session to make sure they're continuing with that update, keeping on top of how things progress and develop, but also helping them with their work and how it can streamline processes and they can really get to grips with the spec more effectively.
I think there's two things that are really useful there. One is understanding the real world impact of the training and hearing examples that show that people are really engaged with it and are actually that it's not just on the surface, it's actually having, you know, a real impact into what you do day by day. But also to have the engagement level that creates suggestions about what could be improved and what could be better and new topics for the future, really helps us. You know, that feedback and that relationship with Ryder Architecture and with our customers is so vital to continuing to evolve what we do. No, that's incredibly helpful. So thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say about NBS training?
I don't think so, other than we do look forward to continuing our work with NBS, and particularly I know I'm in contact with Nick and Ada on a regular basis. We continue to procure you because you tick all the boxes we need, and I think you get something from us as well by whether it's our feedback, our insight, or even just considering the bits of work that we do outside that are project related. So no, it's a thank you for having us. It's good to make sure that when you're delivering something as a training provider, I mean, I used to be a teaching fellow at Durham University, so knowing that however you deliver a program, whether it be a training session or say a degree module, it's good to know that it's received in the right way by those that undertake the course, because you want to make sure you're doing your job as much as the next person, and you're constantly striving to make it better, make sure it applies, make sure it's worth for the next generation of people coming in. And as you said, with something like the NBS specifications, because those people do it as part of their job, it is an integral part of their day to day. They need to make sure they've got the support, the right training, the right understanding, and the skill sets to continue to progress. And once they start to do that much more with confidence and they have it as part of their like subconscious almost, they can continue to strive to do their best. And we can see the outputs as that person is constantly making sure they've put the next foot forward.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Izzy.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to take you through the NBS technical CPDs that are available and what's coming in the future too. Currently, there are 3 technical training sessions on offer, and we can present those as 1-hour Teams meetings. For example, there's a lunchtime CPD session, and they're courses that can be attended by just a few people and by a larger group, depending on the needs of your particular organization. And as I say, I'll also give you a preview of 3 new CPDs that are coming soon and that we're developing. That kind of technical training is often about digging deeper into the subject areas that are the foundations to using a platform like NBS Chorus. Why do we need a specification at all? Why is it important? What classification should I use? How does it relate to building safety? How do we use the specification to improve sustainable product selection? So currently there are those three main subject areas for those CPD sessions. The first is specification essentials, looking at what a specification is and why it's important, and how it fits with things like preliminaries and the actual specification for tender or contract, the stages of work where a specification might develop, the types of information that you might be capturing, and how to make sure that that is really good, robust, structured data using the NBS Chorus platform. Then we've got a course on classification, designed really to help people to transition between CAWS and Uniclass. But if you've got no knowledge of either of those classifications, we can really help you get an understanding of Uniclass from the ground up. And then also to help with an understanding of how it relates to CAWS and that progression if people are transitioning between those two classifications, and how that's being applied much wider than just specification and actually into things like asset management and infrastructure too. And the third course is on the golden thread of information, an understanding of how the specification fits into the Building Safety Act and the data requirements there, and the context and the history of that building safety program, and how critical it is that the specification forms part of that golden thread of information, whether it's product selection, whether it's about the actual content of the specification, the requirements of the gateways, the principal designer role, and it really begins to provide access and links to other resources that can be really useful and helpful when thinking about that context of the Building Safety Act. So currently in development, these will be available soon, and you can talk to your account manager about booking in dates for the future for these subject areas. But we're developing information on sustainable specification. So there's already some great guidance from our technical authoring teams about sustainable specification. Again, product selection in particular, but also things like the carbon and cost data within NBS Chorus itself, and the clause content that really helps with sustainable specification from a holistic perspective. And that relates closely to product selection. So a CPD on using NBS source appropriately for the type of procurement routes that you're using, and selecting manufacturers appropriately, understanding the properties within those product clauses, and how NBS source and NBS chorus relate, but using that in an appropriate and useful way in terms of the product information in your specification. And then developing masters. If you've used NBS Chorus before, you may see the masters tab depending on the access that you have. And that's to help you develop a reusable library of content. There are ways to structure that information to be used on projects. There are lots of aspects in the NBS Chorus functionality that support that, from variables to tags to the specification notes and org and master notes, to help you develop some really useful guidance alongside the reusable content that you can apply to multiple projects and evolve it as your business and your projects do. The final thing to mention in terms of the development of the training content is an initiative to offer you training sets, a combination of training and technical CPD, to help you gain the most value from the NBS Academy offerings, and to tailor that selection to the topics most suitable to your projects or organization right now. So for example, for a brand new starter, perhaps it would be useful to have the bronze NBS Chorus training, but also the Specification Essentials CPD on robust best practice specification writing. And then if you've got somebody transitioning to Uniclass for the first time, a brand new project on Uniclass, then the Chorus for Uniclass training set for the silver training, but also that CAWS to Uniclass classification CPD could be really helpful. And then if you've got a model integrator, a designer who's going to be using one of the designer licenses within NBS Chorus, more familiar with the CAD platforms that they're used to, perhaps Revit plugin training to help make those associations and tags within the platform. And then the golden thread of information to look at the context of why that's so critical to use the specification as part of that golden thread, as part of the Building Safety Act and the requirements there. And then more advanced courses and training sets available too. You'll note there also that alongside that sustainable specification and the idea of having something around NBS source as a lunchtime CPD, we're also developing information on procurement and specification and how that affects things depending on the contracts or procurement routes that you're using within the organisation, and also specification outside of the UK. So we know that a lot of organisations are now working globally. In particular, specification can really change in certain places, particularly those working in the Middle East. We know that we get a lot of queries around that, so we can help you and support you in that too. So we hope that this has been a helpful introduction to NBS training and through the NBS Academy. And as I mentioned, your account managers will be in touch to discuss any future training needs. But if you do have any questions specifically today, or you'd like to find out more, then please do get in touch through that email address, info@thenbs.com, or calling us on the number on screen there. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks to Nick and thanks to Dr. Izzy, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.